Welcome to the Dave Cave. I, as always, am Dave, and today we are going to be talking the last of the original franchise for Nightmare on Elm Street, and that is Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Freddy's Dead was directed by Rachel Talalay, stars Lisa Zane and Sean Greenblatt. Yeah, I would imagine that this movie's probably why I've never had to say those names ever before in my life. And the movie follows the last surviving kid of Springwood, Ohio, after Freddy has literally killed them all. He's killed them all, and the last one is getting out. But when he gets out, he smacks his head open, has amnesia, but then Freddy sends him off to get something, to bring in more victims. But what we come to find out is that in that group of victims, Freddy actually is looking for his own kid. Now, as much of a dumpster fire as this movie is, it really is in so many ways, in so many subtle ways, in so many big ways. It's bad, but I'm very surprised to say that I actually found some things to create a good column. So let's get right into the good. The first thing I want to talk about in the good column is the victims. And I'm not saying the John Doe, the one that's trying to get away from Springwood. I didn't actually like him. I didn't care at all that he died. I didn't think it was that great of an arc. I understand the necessity for that character, but I didn't dig him. The ones I'm talking about are the new kids. Spencer, Carlos, Tracy. I like those kids a lot. Probably because they remind me a lot of the Dream Warriors. And what I like so much about them is that each of them has a dark backstory. I mean, obviously they're all in this, juvenile detention, youth home kind of thing. But they all have these troubled backstories, and they gave a shit about the kids in this movie. Which, aside from everything else in this movie, as I said, this movie's a dumpster fire and it's not good at all. But in this, they actually put effort into these kids and fleshing them out. And the actors, I dug them. I mean, you got Breckenmeyer. I'll listen and watch Breckenmeyer all day. But the guy playing Carlos, the girl playing Tracy, I like those kids a lot. That's what really saves this movie for me, is watching them in it. And the other positive thing that I have to talk about in this movie, it's a really, really minor thing, but I really like it. It's the prototype gloves that we get when we see Freddy's lair, when we see where he does his killings and all the messed up shit that's in there. I like those gloves. I like the idea that he's, okay, maybe this one, all right, maybe this one, or this is what I wanted to do, so this is the kind of glove I made. And then he landed on the glove that we know, which I don't really know if that's the best one of the prototypes that we see in that scene. But that's the one that we got, and it's still pretty fucking awesome. Yep, that's it. I have nothing else positive to say about this movie. So yeah, let's get right into the bad. The first thing I want to talk about not liking in this movie is, well, it's Freddy. I don't like Freddy in this movie. And that makes me mad, because I like Freddy as a character. He does it for me. He looks fucking creepy. He's an asshole. He's got great kills. He's very, very creative when it comes to dispatching these kids. But in this one, his looks are softer. His humor is silly humor. It's not dark humor. I mean, it's kind of dark a couple times, but it's silly. You're just like, oh my God. You don't... Spencer's kill. That's all I'm going to say about Freddy. The next thing I want to talk about in the bad column is the way this movie really evolves. You have a lot of scenes, especially early, that are snippet scenes. It's not even, there's no context for the scenes. When we have John and Maggie meet and they're talking about just where he came from, who he is, what the hell's going on with him, they're in that office. And then they cut, and Maggie is reading this article, and she's like, Krueger, the water tower. Oh my God. And then it flashes to John. He's doing the whole 200,000 bottles of beer on the wall kind of thing to stay awake. And then it flashes back to Maggie. And it just, there's no context for that. It just quick little things that they just cut one after the other, that they don't do anything to develop it. Give like 3 seconds of Maggie going through and looking through John's wallet, finding the clipping. And we have Maggie look at this article and be so concerned about it, but we don't have any like early idea of what the hell she's talking about. That little dream sequence that we get after that should have been about 2 minutes before that, of Maggie having this little moment of hearing the word Krueger and seeing the water tower in that little dream. And then she sees the whole clip from John and oh my God. And you're like, holy shit. Okay, there is something there. They did it all backwards and kind of twisty. And they do that same kind of thing again where they have this whole moment, but they have no context for it. They have no build up to it. It's when they go back to Springwood and they're talking to the history teacher that talks about Freddy as a kid. And John turns and he's like, oh, Freddy as a kid. In this movie at that point, nobody knows who the fuck Freddy is. Not even John. John has not dealt with him since bumping his head and getting the amnesia. He just knows somewhere subconsciously that he doesn't want to fall asleep. That's a bad thing. He knows that if he falls asleep, he's not waking up. At that point, no one had seen Freddy. Nobody knows who he is. So for Maggie and John to be like, oh, holy shit, Freddy, yeah, he had a kid. This is an important thing. Like, I mean, we know. But they don't fucking know. It doesn't make sense. The storytelling and the story progression is so lazy and just... Thank God they fucking killed Freddy in this one. Oh, and for good measure, Maggie's a fucking surgeon with throwing weapons. Did you know that? Is there any basis for that? No? They're all going to have Kristen's powers to join each other's dreams? Okay, yeah, let's just not give a shit about anything the rest of the series has done. They don't care. They don't care. And that's why nobody fucking likes this movie. The last thing I want to talk about in the bad column for Freddy's Dead is the over-explanation of Freddy. The whole idea of the 3 dream demons that turn him into Freddy, all the backstory we get, we don't need all of that. Him being the son of 100 maniacs, that's enough. Like that, we're all sold on that. That's crazy enough shit. Him being the mixture of all of that and the bad shit that went on around that, and that he just ended up being a child murderer and he was wired wrong. That's fine. That is enough. That's plenty. We didn't need the whole he gets used to abuse and you got Alice Cooper coming in beating the shit out of him. We don't need all of that. We really don't. It's Freddy Krueger. He's a bad dude. And I've said before that I do like some backstory for Freddy. I do like getting a little bit, but not all of this. Just the little bits that we've got was perfect. Now I could go on and on, shot for shot, with how bad this movie is. It'd make for a hell of a long video, so we're not going to do that. But what we are going to do is get a little bit more happiness about one of the actually decent parts of this movie, and that is the blood, the guts, the Inagata de Vida, the ugly. Now, the kills in this movie suffer from generally what the whole movie suffers from, and that's the idea that it has good concepts and shit execution. There's a lot of good little ideas that aren't played out well in this movie. That's really driven home when you come to the kills. You have the John kill where, conceptually, you look at it, you have somebody going in thinking, there's no way that Freddy's going to come after me. I'm his kid. There's no way. I'm good. I'm going to face him down. I ain't got to worry about shit. And he still dies. Because he's not. And he finds out that he's not Freddy's kid. Conceptually, cool idea. And then you have the Spencer kill, which that whole scene is just a absolute just monstrosity. That whole scene, Freddy is really fucking goofy. The CG is absolutely terrible. So dated. But then you have the idea of being sucked into a video game and basically having to fight for his life in that. It's the same kind of idea that you get with the Mark kill in Dream Child, where he's brought into this fantasy world and Freddy kills him anyway. It's a cool concept. Shit execution. The only real good thing about that nightmare, as I just mentioned a second ago, was the inclusion of Inagata de Vida. That song fucking rocks. Now, just like Dream Child, there's only 3 kills in this movie. We've talked about 2 of them, And the last one I want to talk about is my award for favorite kill of the movie, and that goes to Carlos. Without driving you home, they give you a good idea of what happened with Carlos, why he can't hear, and they lay it down pretty good, that he's deaf, completely deaf when he doesn't have his hearing aid in. And then you have Freddy take his hearing aid, and they play on that. But then when Carlos gets his hearing aid back, and Freddy starts dropping the pins, that scene is awesome. Conceptually, the way it's executed, I love this kill. It's one of my favorite kills of the entire franchise. It's so well put together. You get a little bit of goofy Freddy, but this is one of those moments I mentioned earlier that Freddy has a dark humor about it. He's a little bit goofy when he starts really getting the glove going, but it's dark. He's messy, like he's getting off on Carlos about to have his head explode from the volume. And then when it does explode, you have a cute little quip of, nice to hear from you, Carlos, or nice hearing from you, Carlos. I like that. That's dark Freddy. It's like, man, like, dude, you're driving home this kill, you son of a bitch. I am going to mention something, even in one of my favorite parts of the movie, the Carlos kill, the hearing aid is in his right ear. Freddy even pops it out with the Q-tip. Pops out. Then he puts it back in his left ear, and that's when it, latches to his head. It's a very easy thing to, not mess up. All throughout the rest of the movie, the hearing aid is in his right. Now, I would understand if they had him, he put it in his left, but then it switched to the right. No, he put it in his left, all this prosthetics on the left. Even in the coolest parts of the movie, they can't do this shit right. Now it's time for my final thoughts on Freddy's Dead, and thank God it's the final nightmare. Kinda. In my memory, I don't remember this movie being all that great. I remember it kind of being really nothing to write home about. But in watching it again and really trying to pay attention to this movie, it's not good. It's really not. I wanted to like this movie. I was hoping that this would be one of those movies that I don't agree with a lot of people on, and that I'd watch it again after so many years of not watching it and be like, no, you guys are crazy. Freddy's Dead is not that bad. It is that bad. It really is. If you haven't seen it, if for no other reason than just to experience this movie, you should watch this movie, because technically it's not good. The acting is okay. Like I said, the original victims, Doc, they're okay. Robert Englund, this is his worst turn as Freddy. Hands down, across the board, this is his worst Freddy that he's ever put out. It has zero sense of continuity with the rest of the series. You have Freddy kill all the kids in Springwood, which it completely goes against the whole idea of that was laid out in the rest of the movies, that there has to be a reason. First, it's the kids on Elm Street, and then it goes from the last kids on Elm Street to Alice, and then Alice into this kid. Now, if they tried to explain some kind of something that, Jacob then unleashed Freddy somehow, and have some kind of article clipping, some kind of something when they go back to Springwood to find out, oh, Alice was at the center of unleashing Freddy, I could get behind that. But they didn't care. They were trying to cash in on Freddy, make him hyper consumable, and it just imploded. And that's why you didn't get another Freddy. And when you did, they had to go back to the roots. Now, thankfully, I don't have to watch this movie again, if I want to. And I don't really plan to anytime soon. There's a lot more better Nightmare movies to watch. And with that, we're going to get right into New Nightmare. New Nightmare is coming down the pipe. I actually dig that one, so be on the lookout for that review. And if this is your first Nightmare review that you're seeing of mine, go check out 1 through 5 while you're waiting for New Nightmare to come out. I got some ups and I got some downs in there. I'm going to have links to all those in the description below, as well as my Instagram and Twitter. They're both at @TheDaveCave_. I post over there when I'm not posting here, and that is going to do it for me today. Thank you so much, as always, for stopping by the Dave Cave. I will see you all real soon for Wes Craven's New Nightmare. But until then, take care.